All right. So I need to tell you a quick story. And again, we're recording. So if you want to ask a question, you're welcome to do so. Welcome to the class. So before we start, I got to tell you a story. When I was a lieutenant at the basic school, we had the opportunity to listen to this general who was a Vietnam veteran. He had just come back from Vietnam. He's a brigadier general, one-star general, and they gathered all the lieutenants at the basic school to go and see him. So you're skinny dudes. We were in the field. We gathered out there in the field. This general comes out, and I'm expecting to hear this lecture on liberty, right? This is about liberty and not liberty, but about fighting and being a warrior and all that good stuff, right? So we get up there, and the first thing he says is, lieutenants, if I ask for a ham sandwich, give me a blip, 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 ham sandwich. Do not give me a cheeseburger deluxe. And we're like, what is he talking about? And then he spent some time explaining that one of the biggest challenges he had is when he needed a piece of information to make a decision, people will try to impress him and they will go out of the way to deliver complex answers when all he needed was that simple answer. So, and hence when I ask you for a ham sandwich, don't spend the time trying to create something new that may not answer my question, and it kind of diverts. And that became kind of a phrase for me about always deliver the ham sandwich. When somebody asks you for something, try to understand what is being asked and deliver it. And he helped me through my entire career. It's something I did from lieutenant on. I actually as I dealt with more complex issues, I learned that the more complex the issue, the more of a ham sandwich I needed to focus on. And I've seen this all the way to general level, when the general's sitting there and he's asking for information, and all these staff officers are trying to create all these complex answers, and they're not answering the general's question or the colonel question, whoever is the boss is. And then when I got to Hawaii, this is again, I was just promoted to captain at the time, and my OLCO was big about ATQ, answer the question. And I discovered that one of the characteristics of leaders is that they tend to be very specific. They know the background. They just want to know, is the sky gray tonight or today? And they don't want to hear, sir, there is a cloud coverage of the 9/10 of this, it's going to rain. That's not what I asked. My question is it going to be gray? Because I'm going to fly night vision goggles, and I want to see how much illumination there is. I want to know how much. That was my interpretation. I just want to know, is it too gray? Is it too dark, right? So now with that comes a good leader always asks the right question. You will say, I need to know if what the cloud coverage is because I'm flying with NVGs tonight. That's a good question, and that requires a specific answer to that. So there is this mirror between leaders who ask good, proper questions that do not leave things out, and then the effort on our side to respond to that question. And what I see in assignments is a lot of people see an assignment, they read the assignment, they get an idea of what the assignment says, just like most people do at work, they get a task, they just get a general idea and then just go to execute. The problem with that is that they leave a lot behind. They leave a lot out. They start going down rabbit trails. I have had papers that had nothing to do with the assignment. And by the way, the more intelligent you are, the more difficult the task is. I work with very smart people, and the thing about smart people is they have not a lot of knowledge. It's very hard for them to focus on the answer, to deliver the ham sandwich. One final story. I'm at the Citadel. I'm a chemistry major. I'm struggling. It's very hard. I mean, there were a lot of things going personally that were also affecting my grade. So I go and talk to my department head about, should I stay in this major? And at the time I was struggling. I was C grade guy. It was my sophomore year. And this department head looks at me and goes, Jose, in the chemistry world, we need you more than we need those PhD guys. And I go, what are you talking about? And he says, the problem with PhD guys is that you hire them, you pay a lot of money to them, but they cannot make a decision and they cannot deliver. They're so enamored with their ideas and their theories that they never produce. They said, we need you to be the manager of those guys because you're the ones who are going to force them to deliver answers. Now, I'm glad to say that my grades did improve. I ended up with Dean's List, the last 3 semesters, and I've just got these amazing things in my life, but I actually did really well. Things just click in chemistry for me. And I aced physical chemistry, aced physical, anyway, it was just fascinating how all this knowledge just opened up. The understanding came from chemistry. So anyway, this ability to make things happen, answering the questions, tell them the ham sandwich has really helped me out. And then for you, who may be the ones going out there into the world and going to be confronted with ever increasing complexity of tasks, what I'm going to try to do through this assignment for week 4 is show you how to do that. Now, I know Collins was in the Army. Curly, were you in the, Curly, you're in the Army, right? In Kentucky. Collins, Derek, were you guys in the Army too?
Yeah, I'm still in.
You're still in, great. How about Collins?
No, for me, no.
No, lucky dog. And Paktek, I'm pronouncing your name terribly. I'm sorry. Were you in the military at all?
No, I'm not in the military.
And again, how you pronounce your first name?
It's Pak Tian.
Pak Tian. Again, I apologize.
Pak, like PAC, Pak, and then
Pak
Tian.
Pak Tian. Okay. God, thank you. Sorry for that. So, I, for the military guys, they have received orders, sometimes written, sometimes verbals. We're trained to write them down and do a task analysis, right? So this is similar to that, but maybe a little more detail. I have dealt with very complex issues. I have wrote the SOP for SAL support way back. And this is the method I did it. It took me a year to write it, very complex task to do, to write this SOP, but I got it done because I followed the ham sandwich. I knew what the fleet wanted as a ham sandwich, and I tried not to create a sandwich deluxe or a cheeseburger deluxe. And what ended up happening is quality of the work. Listen to this, guys. The quality of the work makes up for whatever you miss from the cheeseburger deluxe. Does that make sense? When you are the guy that answers the question, who provides the solution, that is 10 times better than trying to deliver the ham sandwich, because you're the guy that's going to be known for the guy that can provide the answers. In that role, I ended up being a fireman for a lot of issues. I ended up leading flights to complex areas because they knew when the general gave me a command that I knew that it would be completed, not in a different way. And they gave me latitude too to change what I needed to change, but they knew that the results were always going to meet what the general wanted to do. Does that make sense? All right.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I'm going to take assignment week 4, and I'm gonna make a ham sandwich out of it. Okay. So let me transition to that, and I got to get out of this mode here. I hope he recorded it. Yeah, I hope he really recorded it. Let me bring this down a little bit. So let me start with the class material. Going back to week 4, right? You need to know all this stuff, but it's very important that you also pay attention to the analysis, to the SWOT analysis. And this is kind of a complex chart, right? It shows you something is a little bit more complex than I would like to. This is kind of explaining the environment of a company who's been challenged to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and they're going to do an analysis. And what this graph is trying to show is that environment. You know, where you are in the business world, what is your model, the mission, vision, values, and then you do an external analysis and you do an internal analysis, and then you do the SWOT analysis. And again, we're going to get into that definition. And it tries to explain that process. In this chart, it's really trying to explain what they do. So it's very important you read this before you complete the assignment, so you have an idea of the higher level thinking of it too. The only issue I have with this is that a SWOT analysis, let me bring out my little window here too. The way it's implemented, and sometimes in the lecture, it actually has several levels, right? What I mean by that is you can conduct a SWOT analysis at a strategic level, you know, for a big company, which the assignment kind of leads towards that. Doesn't have to be, but it does. You can do it within a department, and it can be, so the focus can be different. So because of those differences in focus of objective, the SWOT analysis may accomplish different things. So just there, so when you read the content material, you're going to see different versions of it, but it's because of where they're projecting the analysis into, whether it's a big business or something more smaller. Anyway, so just leave it at that. I just didn't want to confuse you. Just know that there are variations on the material, but that's normal because it requires different perspectives depending on what you're analyzing. So it talks about all these green, red areas. I'm not going to get into that. Just read the material, and then it talks about this making competitive moves, right? That's a whole class about advantages and disadvantages of a business. This will be useful to you so that when you go into the analysis, you may understand what is an advantage to a business and what can be disadvantages. So it's a good knowledge to bring into the analysis. So I'm recommending that you read it. It's not something that necessarily impacts the analysis directly, but it will inform the way you do the analysis. All right. And especially if you pick an organization for the assignment that is pretty large, and we'll get into that here. And then the SWOT analysis is basically another interpretation of the SWOT. It's a much detailed one. I think that this is a pretty good resource to understand it, and just know that it's very detailed. I think for someone who is going to go into the business, this should have been the main course to teach out of this section, and it explains it a little bit better. And I think people who read this will be well informed in how they do the analysis. Okay. So I wanted to highlight those things from, what is this now? Okay, there we go. So let me go back in here. I'm going to go back once to here, go here. And then what is situation analysis? I found, and I'm just being honest, I found this section to be a little bit confusing. Because while you're reading about all these business analysis, what this does, it gives you another definition of how to apply this SWOT analysis. And if you views opportunities and threats as external factors and strengths and weaknesses as being internal factors, nothing wrong with that. It's just that I think this moves more into a more internal view of an organization. Not a bad interpretation, it's just a different interpretation. I like it because it tells you, if you're going to look at strengths and weaknesses, it kind of shows you what they mean by that. They give you specifics, product lines, human resources, technical resources and capabilities, financial resources, and external factors, right? The difference between this definition of a SWOT it may be confusing to some. I didn't find it so confusing as much as it's just another lens to look at SWOT. In that, in this case, the definition of a SWOT analysis is especially the strength is the things the organization does well. So in some of the examples we're going to talk about, like Heineken and Walmart, they're talking about the things the company does, right? If you look at this other version of SWOT analysis, you will be looking at things they do internally very well. Do they do human resources well? Do they stock well? Do they have a great supply chain? So again, it's just a little a different view. All right, with that knowledge, you can now move to the assignment. So let me go back now here. And already the assignment is here. I'm just gonna show you where it is and you pull it up. Right, there are two parts for it. Complete your SWOT analysis, which is a PowerPoint. And then there is the assignment itself in a PDF format. Download that, and this is what you're gonna get. All right. My first lesson of making the ham sandwich is that you on your first reading, you take the whole thing, just like I did here, and you copy it to a Word document. Right. This was an earlier version that I did, in case we don't get to it completely. But what I'm doing here is basically I just copy the assignment. So these are my instructions, right? And I hope you'll follow what I did. I just took the assignment and pasted it. Now what I do is I try to read it now. At first, this creates a little bit of work for you, but it's not that hard to do. It's just, all you do is read it. Now, most of you will read through this very fast and move on. I don't think that's the best approach to do it. So what I do is I go and start making headings, subheadings, and then subheadings. So in this case, class project. What is a class project? I thought we were doing an assignment, right? So what is the purpose of the assignment? And then I read what it says. The class project is blah, 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 and it explains to you what it does. So now you're talking of an assignment that seems to have more than one requirement. So the first one, as such, it accounts for 58% of, and it has two deliverables: a SWOT analysis and presentation, and then you also have a presentation. So now you know that we're just doing part one or part two. I think we needed to know that up front. And then I keep breaking it down. As I read down, I start heading, is this a primary task, subtask, or, and then that explanation. I keep doing that throughout, because as I create this outline, it makes me understand what I'm reading, right? A lot of this right now is background information, but it's important. So I define, and then it tells you more information. Identify the basic components of the information systems. That comes from a lot of the class lecture. And apply information tools for research. That's important. That's kind of leading you to say that they want you to use information that you had in your readings to come up with answers. And that's going to play more of a role in part two, but for now, it's good to know. Now start here. And then I make a indent of that. The class project for this course focuses on the evaluation of a business organization and how it may strengthen their technology, including their information. There are two parts. It's kind of repeating, right? The SWOT analysis and the presentation. Okay, it's okay to know that. I still break it apart so I can know where I am. Then choose a business information. Now, I think that step one is really your first task of the assignment. So that's important. So what I normally do is I bold it and underline it. To begin, choose a business organization that you would like to evaluate. It can be where you work. Okay, so this tells me that it can be work, it can be a school, it can be a place of worship, it can be government. So those are my choices. Actually, in here it says any type of organization. Now, because I'm an information systems management class, I would recommend something that can be related to that. It doesn't have to be. But for example, pick Walmart, right? Walmart is not an information systems organization, but they use a lot of systems, information systems. So that there's a tie there. Most of big organizations today will have an information system dimension to them too. And I think that will help because I will be able to say this ties with their information, whether the information systems are strength, weaknesses, opportunity, anyway, or a threat, because anyway, depending on their business model. But the biggest thing is choose an organization. Anything that I think is important, I underline. If it's really important, I'll make it a red, right? Step 2, the SWOT analysis. Now, this introduces a lot of information, right? It is to comply, it's time to complete the first deliverable. It's this information here, a lot of it is just repeating what the class says, that it's a framework for analysis used by business and includes both internal influences and a valid organization. And it tells you for more explanations, go to, and it gives you more resources. Those are good resources for you guys starting here. Tomorrow, I would suggest you spend some analysis, some time looking at that, just so that you become more familiar with it. And it tells you what you're going to do with it. It tells you more about what you're going to identify. Start by filling out a table. Okay. So basically what they're saying is, at this time, I picked up the business, and now I'm going to create a table, right? Based on what I read of what SWOT analysis looks like, right? That does not look much like an assignment yet, but it's getting there, all right? And then it tells you how to do that. Create a task list. And what they're asking you to do, and this is kind of the pre-assignment to the assignment, is create a table. It's not looking very good in here. Where you show strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, based about what you know about that business and the class material. And then they give you, so they're kind of going through the process before you get to the deliverable part. So they're guiding you through it. And they do that for strengths and weaknesses, and they do the same thing for opportunities and threats. And again, they're giving you markers like expansion, complacing, aggressive competition, to give you hints on what needs to go in those places. All right. So far, so good. Did I left you behind? You good? You're tracking me?
Yeah, I'm good. So far,
Okay. Okay. So now we get to the step 3, to write the damn thing. I'm sorry, to write the SWOT analysis. So this is what your deliverable is going to look like, right? Now that you identify what the organization was, you studied the organization, right? You created this table. Now, how are you going to take that? How are you going to fit that into a deliverable? Well, it tells you right here. Now that you identify the organization, you will analyze and complete a SWOT table listing weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It is time to write the analysis. So the part should include a title page. Believe it or not, students always miss this up. I don't know why. The title of the page, you have the title page right here. It gives it to you. Company, don't worry about the stuff at the bottom. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay, there we go. Company, organization, your name, course, and data submission. There's your APA center of page, title page right there. And then it's going to require to write a purpose statement, right? So it tells you what it is. Briefly describe what the SWOT methodology is. Okay, so he's asking you to do 2 things, right? Describe. So those become sub-bullets. 1, describe what the SWOT methodology is. And 2, the business organization you're focusing on. Let me go back to that. Okay. So that's what he's asking you to do, right? So when you're filling this out, you'll have the outline for your paper, and all you have to do is fill it up. And when you fill up with the answers, all you have to do is get rid of the question. Or you could say, by the way, this is something I recommend with any task. The questions they ask you for any assignment should be the headings for your assignment. So in this case, I would just put in here for the title of this section, purpose, paragraph 1, SWOT methodology, period. And then I would start with, for this paper. Oh, I'm sorry, I have the caps. For this paper, the methodology used, blah, 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 blah. Blah, and then write whatever you need to write that describes that answer. Then the second part to that, I'm just making it a little bit prettier here, is the business you're focusing in. For this paper, you know, Walmart, Apple, whoever, you know, it was picked because of blah, blah. Now, the only thing that is missing from this is that a purpose, right? It didn't quite give you a purpose yet, but I already filled out what the tasks are. So what I need to do now is add something that preambles that. The purpose of this paper, just like that. That's I will start just the purpose of this paper is to conduct an analysis of whatever, of I will put it right. A SWOT, I would spell it out. If it's the first time I use the acronym SWOT, I would just spell it out. Of, I don't know, pick a company, Apple, right? And then break it into those two statements below. So now I just created my purpose statement, and then I went right into SWOT methodology and business organization. In this case, I would say something like why Walmart? Why Walmart was chosen? Question mark. And then you start writing your paragraph. And then your paragraph 3 is your SWOT analysis. And it's include the table. Again, I start making my little breakdown here, right? Include a SWOT analysis, which is the so it's basically 2 tasks. Include the SWOT analysis and describe, that's your task number 2, each quadrant. And each quadrant. So now basically what I will do is my next thing, it will be this, the heading SWOT analysis, the table, and then I will start breaking each. I will probably put a kind of an intro paragraph to that section, and then on strength, and explain that quadrant. On weaknesses, and explain that quadrant. And we're gonna go through some examples here shortly, so we will get there. Opportunities and threats, you explain that. And then you have a conclusion paragraph. And then per all APA papers, you should have a separate page that says reference list and listing your references. And in here, it tells you the format. And then all of these become part of how in the structure of the paper itself. Now, once I'm done with this, you have your paper here, right? You basically, this highlight area becomes your paper. But you understood the background, you understand the structure and what needs to be delivered. And what I normally do is I take this first outline and print it. And then as I complete each section, I put a little square box in by hand, right? And then when I'm smoothing the paper out and I'm finalizing, I go back to, and I put a check mark on everything that I did to make sure it's completed. Gents, you just delivered the ham sandwich without realizing it, without conducting an effort. You went by the outline they gave you, and all you're doing is answering those questions. And then just all you have to do is clean this up. And then what I normally do is, once I decide what the paper is going to look like, I copy that to the new paper, right? Remember, I printed there. This one is doing check marks, but then this one becomes the paper I'm gonna actually write. So let me introduce that to you guys real quick. So now I know this is a title page, right? So it doesn't let me. Okay, so this is a title page. You know that there is going to be insert a page here because it is to title page. You get rid of that. You know, put that in the middle. You're gonna center it. That's what IPA looks like, right? So it's quite not centered because again, this is a very rough format, and some of the formatting from the other paper moved over, but you can clean that up too by doing this. So now you just fill that out. Now you have the purpose of the paper. What I'll probably do this is go ahead. Derek, you needed something? You're good?
Can you shift the screen a little bit?
It's a shift it right there.
A little bit more.
Okay. How is that?
Yes, good. Thank you.
So I will do this, the paper, you know, the purpose of this paper, blah. By the way, another way of doing this is you put this as a side one and then you start, you know, you tab it and then you kind of, you write your paragraph and that's fine with me too. And then you can do your subheadings like this. So in this case, business, whatever it is, organization used for analysis. Do you see how the outline is giving me the answers? Does that make sense? And then SWOT analysis. There we go. Maybe a little intro. Again, I would have put the paragraph, I would have put the table like it asked, and then I will start describing each paragraph as a subheading. Another thing that you can do that may help is, you know, again, whether you use it all the way to the right. Actually, I need to fix this a little bit. Okay, that's what I'm looking for right there. I will write the table and then I will start creating maybe headings that deal with headings like strength, right? Well, I lost my strength. Sorry, I should be using my glasses. That will help. Anyway, opportunities. Let me fix that. Opportunities. Then the next weaknesses. Opportunities, and then you describe each one properly. Okay. All right. So now those are your headings for each section, and then I will probably also include some type of an intro to it, right? You don't just want to start, right? And for that, what I do is I look back at the instructions, right? So describe each one. And so my paragraph introduction for this section will be the following, the quadrants in the table above are explained or described in the below paragraph. Each quadrant will clearly identify the analysis and the description, and includes important attributes of the organization. So I took the instructions and I made it part of my paragraph. That's part of the ham sandwich method. Is when somebody gives me something, right? He needs to know what he asked for. So I take what they said, what they wrote, and that becomes part of my paper. And it helps me stay on topic. And when he reads it or she reads it, she goes, that's exactly what I asked for. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Hey, at this point, any questions? I've been talking for a while. Any questions? Collins, Curly, Derek?
No, I'm good.
No, I have no question.
Okay, all right. And then conclusion, the findings from the SWOT analysis. I will actually start with that. The findings from the are blah, 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 blah. Right? And you know the last part for references, right? It's a page on its own. So you insert a page. You call it reference list or references, and then you put your references in APA format. Okay, now this is really a lot shorter. I'm trying to explain to you guys, so it took way too long. I did it earlier, the same process. Probably took me about 5-10 minutes to do it, because once you do a couple of times, you know what to look for, right? And so it becomes an easier process to do. This was my outline the first time I tried it out, and as you can see, it was pretty, pretty outline clean. It's hard to do when you're in front of the class or trying to explain each step more in detail. The other thing I would suggest is it's in the instructions, there is a section that talks about, oh, for a second, let me get back to the instructions. You got to go to instructions for that. Where it actually gives you two examples, the Walt Disney and Heineken SWOT analysis. This is a lot of students don't read this, and what happens is they start writing things that they don't understand. They didn't read the content, and in here it kind of shows you an example of a company and how those 4 quadrants were broken out. Now listen to the language here. We're talking about Walt Disney in this case, and it says Walt Disney's world's greatest strength is the world famous. It's its world famous brand. So right off the back, you can see a difference on the perspective. They're taking a very strategic view of the SWOT analysis, and then they tell you up front what the strength is. Walt Disney and weaknesses. Walt Disney's World includes several different parks within the resort. They have also expanded beyond their traditional brands into ESPN and sports attraction. On top of that, Walt Disney operates several different hotels. This diverse product portfolio may represent a weakness because managing such different products can reduce efficiency. Now, the only difference on this is I would have started the paragraph with the bottom line first, and then I would explain it. I would have started with this diverse, I would have started with Walt Disney's diverse product portfolio may represent a weakness because managing so many different products and businesses can produce inefficiencies and lead to lack of strategic focus. And then I would explain what I say. I like to say things up front and then analyze them. Opportunities. This is another point that that all these parks and resorts actually provide opportunity, and then the threat. Basically in the competition area, where a lot of what Disney World does can also risk losing customer to competitors. So that shows what this is supposed to go. And then they do another one. If you keep going down, it's Heineken, and then they do the same thing for Heineken. Again, they go through very short statements. Heineken has established track record, brewery success, and then owns this one. The only problem with this one is that they seem to be just describing, not really telling me why that's a strength. I would like to see things like they did in the Walt Disney one, where they actually tell me what makes them such an international success. See, the Heineken problem is not that they're international. I mean, that's not an indication of their success. What made it a success is their strength, not that they're a success. That, to me, this will not be a good statement. Heineken's weakness maybe is size. What do they mean by that? They mean reach, the growth. They're a big company. They may collapse in their win. I think that could have been better stated. Anyway, do you understand what this means for your table? Whatever company you are using, what I'm asking you to do is follow the Walt Disney model. If you look more internally at the organization, you may be looking at something in that's okay too. You're maybe looking at the way they hire people. You know, maybe their strength is that in their Walt Disney just hired the best of the best. Apple was doing that. Pixel, for example, did that for a while. They were just hiring the best of the best, and that's why you get great products. That is a huge strength. It tells you where the strength comes from. So, but it's a more internal view, and I hope you notice the difference. Okay, I think I took most of the time I wanted to dedicate to this. It's been an hour, but the only reason I wanted to do this is that you have a better understanding of it. Now in here, if you notice, it started with one word statements. This is for the exercise that we're doing. For the paper, I want to see a more detailed explanation of what that means. If not here, in the paragraphs below. All right. And then I also ask you that you always look at the rubric to make sure that you're meeting the qualifications of that area. All right, of the assignment that you made the qualifications. All right, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna ask for questions, and let us start. First of all, I guess I have a question for you guys. Does this look like a ham sandwich to you?
It does. So the way you
Yeah.
broke it down kind of simplifies it.
Yeah. Now, I cannot tell you how many people who are not in this today or won't read the instructions are going to give me something totally different. I have had very smart people take this whole thing and give me something that looks more like, let me give you an example here from my class, more like this. Oh man, come on. I have to go back and click on it again. No, that's not the one. That's not it either. Yeah, that looks more like this. No table included. And what they're doing is they're finding sources and they're pasting them over. And they completely miss what was asked. So don't be that guy. I mean, they're trying to impress me because they do a lot of research, but it's research that is not really what it needs to do. And for that, by the way, the requirement for the assignment is to have 2 references, one internal and one external. And I think you can do that very easily. So what would you put these references? I always recommend the best place to put references is on the introduction, like in the purpose paragraph could be one, maybe in the analysis, when you introduce after the table to introduce the description down below, you may want to add right off the back, a good one will be from the class material, right? And then in the conclusion, you can bring something that is external, that deals with SWOT analysis. Now, in the SWOT analysis, there was very little on the examples that dealt with information systems. That's okay, I still would grade it, but why not look at strength in technology for Walt Disney or Heineken? Don't you think that those that expanding in their technology side, do you think that technology is not part of a successful Walt Disney? It's at the center of everything they do. Imagineering is not possible if you don't have technology, which raises another question. What if in your table you have more than one strength? That's okay. You can do that. I've seen it done many times. I'm looking for the table, sorry. I may have to go to the instructions themselves. I have had people list more than one strength, more than weakness. That's properly done. Just don't make it into a cheeseburger deluxe. Don't do 20 of them, right? If you notice in all this example, all that was required was good one, a good, strong strength or weakness, opportunities or threat. And then a good write-up about why that's the one you chose. And you saw the examples there too. So it's not a very complicated assignment. Go ahead.
Question. So just so for the table that you have right now opened up, if we have one solid strength, weakness, opportunity, threats for any company, business or company we're talking about, that's more than enough.
It has to be a good one. Yes.
Got you.
That has to be just like, but it has to be the quality of Walt Disney's one, right? Where it kind of explains it in detail. I have no problems with that. No problem.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you want to put two, that's okay too. Just don't go and start building a you know, some students will start listing, and then what they will do is they put all the write-up here and then skip the analysis part of it. So what you want is like kind of the key phrase that goes in each section, and then the below paragraph you want to expand it. Make sense? Just like the instruction
Yes,
says.
sir.
Just like the instruction says. If you use this type of table or the quadrant is irrelevant to me. I prefer this outlook. But I don't want to confuse the class. Stick with what the instructions say. Again, I would use this as my primary source material, but I don't want to confuse you guys. Which probably
Sorry, Professor, we can't see that table very well. Can you move it a little bit so I can see that?
Don't worry about it. Do it this way.
Okay.
Just do it this way. I don't want to confuse you anymore. I was just talking about this analysis. I thought was a better write-up to put up front. But because I'm academic, right? I want you guys to be working at the master level. If I want you guys to be ahead of where you are today, because I want you guys to be the best managers, supervisors out there. And you will use this many times. So anyway, I think I exceeded my time now. I need to stop. What other questions you guys have? Nada? I'm shocked. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You good? Everybody
Yes,
good?
Prof.
Say what?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good. Collins?
Just a question. If I'm done with a little, if I'm done kind of working on my SWOT, can I send you a copy of it and you can kind of check it out before I actually submit it?
Sure, I will do it.
Awesome,
now,
thank you.
What I recommend on that, I'm not gonna write the paper for you, but I will look at it, and then what I'll do is a Zoom conference and go through and give you pointers.
Pointers, okay.
Send it via email. If it's good, actually, that's not necessarily true. It depends on how much help you need. I'll do a Zoom. Normally, I will answer via email, and then
Okay.
if this requires more time, we'll just set up a Zoom conference. Just don't do it the nights do. Now, with that said, I will tell you this: I'm very liberal with my extensions, but this is a contract. I hope that you read some of my announcements. It's a deal. Whenever I extend somebody, what I'm asking them to do is to do a quality job. So don't rush it, run out of time, and then wait to give an extension, then rush it again at the end, because that's not going to help you in your grade. And I still have a penalty that I can apply. But if you if you use that time to produce a quality job, I will not assess any penalty for being late. But if you need the time, tell me, Professor V, I'm not done. I'm not satisfied. I don't need a doctor's appointment. I don't need excuses. Just ask and be honest about it. And I will give you the extension you need, normally about 3 days. And in that time, we can talk. In that time, we can do a lot of things. I will tell you that I am glad to know that most of my students that pay attention do very well, because in other classes, I do 4 papers. So every 2 weeks, I'm doing a paper. And I'll tell you, I can see the transition between rush work, and by the other week, they're producing all this quality work. and they're not rushing because they know I will work with them too. And then they all focus on delivering the ham sandwich. All right, what other questions do I have? Are we good? Are we done?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes, I'm good, Prof.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully this recorded. If not, I do have an assignment that I did for another class, and I kind of go through the same thing. So hopefully that will help the other students. I'm here I'm here for the long haul. If 2 years from now you need advice about anything, I have students that I talk to. I have students that come to Virginia Tech. I'm here for my students, and I mean it. I'm here into mentoring you guys and becoming the best out there, and to be the thoughtful guys that can answer questions, which in this world doesn't seem to be many people. All right, you take care. Bye.
All right, thank you.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Prof.
Adios.
Thank you.
Take care.
Maybe come the positive side.
Let me see. Turn off the camera first.